Give me some volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto.
Divorce rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men. Terrible that you would.
Barack Obama didn't retire. He went full Hollywood, trading the White House podium for a Netflix mic and a beachfront mansion. Now he's dropping memoirs like mixtapes and dishing out advice from a throne built on contradictions. Joe Rogan and Gutfeld aren't buying the act. They're tearing through the polished facade to expose the real legacy. All style, zero substance. Get ready for a brutal roast where charisma meets cold reality and walks away with production deals.
Get a glass of water? I'm serious. I'm thirsty. Can I get a glass of water? This is not a prank. You never seen it?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Oh,
it's amazing.
no.
He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this,
Problem
He's
is solved?
bullshitting the world. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? What? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him. No, you bring a fucking water on stage.
Is Obama gay? Needing attention over an old letter. What? I should read that again. Anyway, no, we'll just keep going. The New York Post obtained a redacted portion of a handwritten letter the former president sent to his then college girlfriend, Alex McNear. Alex, eh? Back in 1982. He talked about his, quote, androgynous mind and wrote, and I'm quoting Obama here, I make love to men daily.
In imagination, Barack Obama walked into history with a pen, a teleprompter, and the confidence of a man who thought hope was a long-term policy. It's almost poetic how someone could speak so eloquently for 8 straight years and still manage to say absolutely nothing. His presidency was a TED Talk with Secret Service protection, deep-sounding words, hollow results, and a fan base that applauded like he had cured cancer every time he raised an eyebrow.
Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans.
Joe Rogan starts circling like a shark smelling blood in a sea of narrative-driven nostalgia. You know Joe. If you've ever fought a bear on mushrooms while discussing quantum mechanics in a sauna, you've already had lunch with him. He looks at Obama's legacy and doesn't see a statesman. He sees a stand-up comic who somehow got a Netflix special without any punchlines. From the moment Obama dropped his first. Let me be clear. Rogan knew we weren't getting clarity. We were getting the political version of interpretive dance. All movement, no substance.
He was roasting Trump in the audience, and you could see Trump in his head going, okay, I'm going to run now. Like, that might have been the thing that got him to run.
No one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac?
That one moment where Obama was talking to him might be the reason why Trump was like,
Greg Gutfeld steps in with that smirk of his that says, I'm about to ruin your public image with nothing but sarcasm and a Red Bull. And what a canvas Obama gave him. This was a man who won a Nobel Peace Prize before he even picked up the keys to the White House. Then drone struck half the Middle East while being serenaded by Hollywood elites. It was like watching a pacifist win a UFC belt before round 1, then entering the octagon with a steel chair and a choir of journalists singing backup.
President number 44 wants to help the left censor more. Former President Obama, if that's his real name. is launching a campaign to stop the spread of disinformation, which he called a real challenge for our democracy. And also for his former Veep, who's challenged by questions like, what's my name and why am I nude in the road?
Joe Rogan dives into foreign policy like a pit bull chewing on a pair of overpriced Italian loafers. He's not dissecting diplomacy. He's calling it out like a UFC ref watching a guy tap out under an avalanche of strategic airstrikes. Rogan looks at Obama's infamous red line in Syria the way a survivalist looks at a broken compass. Completely useless and somehow still dangerous. The man threatened a dictator with the intensity of a school principal warning a kid about cutting the lunch line. Spoiler, Assad didn't flinch.
Obama said he was a jackass.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing up there? He's a jack.
It's like, oh, really? Well, you.
It was about the Taylor Swift thing.
Now, all this stuff.
That guy's a jack. It wasn't even that harsh of an incident. And he said it privately, and I think somebody heard it. I don't think he said it to be public.
I'm assuming all this stuff. Where's the pool? Come on, guys. Cut the president some slack.
Oh, here it is.
Seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award.
Why would he do that?
He's a jack. No.
Gutfeld takes the economic angle, roasting it like it's the world's driest turkey. He drags out that infamous shovel-ready jobs promise and spins it into a Broadway farce. Shovel-ready? The only thing that was ready was the public's willingness to believe anything that sounded poetic. It was like ordering a steak and getting a scented candle. The recovery crawled out of the 2008 crater like it had a hangover from the campaign slogans. But hey, if you measure success by how many times you can say recovery summer without laughing, Obama was killing it. Joe can't resist the irony of Obama going full Wall Street while pretending to be Main Street's messiah. The man showed up at Goldman Sachs events with the energy of a roadie who lost his guitar but still wants a jam. He bailed out the banks, let the homeowners drown, and then strutted on stage like he taught America to swim. It's the political version of robbing your neighbor's house and getting a thank you note for saving the neighborhood. Gutfeld steps up with a healthcare beat, wielding sarcasm like a scalpel. Obamacare, the shining jewel of Obama's domestic legacy, sold like a magic elixir until people found out it was actually a Groupon for medical confusion. It was billed as universal care, but felt more like a choose-your-own-adventure book written by the DMV. The website launch was so catastrophic, it made MySpace look like Amazon. And yet, there was Obama, smiling through the glitches like a wedding DJ who doesn't realize the speakers are on fire.
Let's admit it, America. We miss Barack Obama.
Juan does.
There he is. In a recent speech, he said he had no real scandals in his White House, a jab at Trump.
We didn't have a scandal that embarrassed us. I know that seems like a low bar. Generally speaking, you didn't hear about a lot of drama inside our White House.
No drama. So to quote the TSA officer whose dog just sniffed my carry-on, let's unpack this. So why didn't you hear much about O's White House? Well, who was brave enough to look? There was never a cozier relationship between a president and the media, ever. If the White House were a bed, the press was the...
Joe jumps into the cultural division. Under Obama, America didn't just drift into identity politics. It plunged headfirst like a kid cannonballing into a pool of Tumblr hashtags. Rogan, who thrives on uncomfortable truths, couldn't ignore how the man who was supposed to unify everyone managed to divide them into more categories than a Whole Foods snack aisle. Gutfeld mocks the idea that you needed a decoder ring to understand Obama's brilliance, when really all you needed was the ability to sit through an hour of high-gloss nothingness without slipping into a coma. Joe slams a mic on the surveillance state, the spy-thirsty nightmare that mushroomed under Obama like a dystopian fanfiction. The NSA didn't just monitor terrorists. They were practically eavesdropping on Grandma's banana bread recipe. The guy who campaigned on transparency built a digital panopticon and handed the keys to the deep state with a wink. And still, people applauded like he handed them freedom instead of a wiretap.
Kamala Harris admits it changed my opinion of that guy.
Really? Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did, just as an intelligent person.
Right.
But watching him just straight up lie about Trump, the thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
Who said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist Rally.
which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017.
Yeah.
You know, I think it worked back then. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think.
Greg brings out the legacy paintbrush and starts flinging sarcasm like Jackson Pollock at a White House portrait. He calls out the Iran deal, which was basically a foreign policy version of a Vegas bet on a broken roulette wheel. You hand billions to a regime chanting death to America, and you walk away with a smile, like you just scored backstage passes to reason. Gutfeld pictures Obama shaking hands with the Ayatollah, blindfolded, holding a pen, and surrounded by diplomats who all read a different script. Then comes the immigration paradox pinata. Here's the man who deported more people than anyone before him while delivering speeches that sounded like bedtime stories for activists. Rogan pictures Obama in front of the Statue of Liberty, talking about hope, then pulling a trapdoor lever under thousands of dreamers. It wasn't a sanctuary. It was an illusion wrapped in a press release.
Or you go after other Democrats. Let the primaries start now. Go after Newsom, or, go after Fetterman. Go after somebody. The media will gobble that up. Or you go after some foreign leader. Take an axe to Chi, or go after the cartels or something. Get yourself banned from travel somewhere, okay? Mm-hmm. And then go after some CEO. Go after some big fat cat CEO that's just like hurting his workers and just running up prices. Go after that guy. And then you go on Rogan and you laugh at yourself. That is the recipe for getting attention without going after Donald Trump. Because every time you clash with Trump, you lose, and you look like you don't care about the rest of the American people.
And we've talked a lot about how the Democrats are trying to find the answer to Trump. They're trying to find the analog to him. But part of Obama's comments, too, he said, stop looking for the quick fix. Stop looking for the Messiah. You have a great candidates running races right now. Just focus on what you have in front of you.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, if you listen to Obama and you look at these inorganic protests, they say you have to have courage, rally, act, resist, but they don't. For what? What is the actual issue? When Trump owns every issue 80-20 by almost every metric, from the economy to crime to immigration, where are you? The high ground maneuver of common sense has relegated it into more extreme measures. Ask Obama, okay, where do I apply this courage? What space do I park it in? Should I double down on trans dudes in women's sports? Should I back the attacks on ICE?
Gutfeld swoops in on the celebrity bromance. From Beyonce to Spielberg, Obama wasn't governing. He was doing photo ops like a prom king of globalist galas. Every state dinner felt like the Oscars, with slightly more nuclear codes. Greg imagines Obama practicing his speech cadence in front of a mirror flanked by candlelight and the scent of Tom Ford. It wasn't leadership. It was curated aesthetic governance with a jazz playlist and a fact checker on retainer. Joe doesn't forget Chicago. How could he? The city where Obama cut his political teeth while pretending to never notice the spiraling violence, failing schools, and generational poverty under his ideological backyard. Rogan calls it out. You don't get to fly over a crater and call it a garden. Chicago was a living example of everything Obama claimed to care about, while doing nothing but raising campaign funds and playing rhetorical jazz over the bodies. Gutfeld hits the climate change charade. Obama showed up to environmental conferences in Air Force One and left with a tote bag full of broken promises. He pledged green jobs like a kid, handing out lemonade coupons during a snowstorm. Meanwhile, the actual emissions still going strong. Greg jokes that Obama probably had a solar panel installed on his golf cart just to show off at Martha's Vineyard.
Obama, part of the reason it's hard to bring about change is because we live in a media environment that elevates falsehoods as much as truths and divides people as much as it brings them together. Through the Obama Foundation, we're working to empower and equip emerging leaders to tackle issues like the spread of disinformation. Of course, as plenty of people immediately pointed out, it was Obama's Democratic allies who cooked up the Russian collusion hoax. Or how about Nick Sandmann, hands up, don't shoot, don't say gay, or the Hunter laptop story. They're all stories where the public was shielded from the truth with help from the Democratic-friendly legacy media, who try to diss any information that threatens their narrative. And by narrative, I mean...
Rogan throws a haymaker with the post-presidency glow-up. Obama, now a global influencer with a podcast and a production company, is preaching responsibility from the top floor of an oceanfront mansion. It's like watching a guy who sold his soul for attention now sell inspirational merch to his old fan base. You don't get to warn the world about rising seas while sipping Mai Tais from a property 5 feet above Atlantis. Greg jumps in on race. Obama had a historic opportunity to unite, to heal, to actually be post-racial. Instead, he sprinkled division like it was Parmesan. Gutfeld imagines Obama giving speeches like a philosopher, then ghostwriting the instruction manual for Twitter mobs. It wasn't about progress. It was about painting anyone who disagreed as morally defective using poetic guilt as policy. You could disagree with his healthcare plan, and suddenly you were 3/5 a citizen in his eyes. Joe Rogan doesn't skip the arrogance either. That subtle smirk, that professorial gaze, it wasn't confidence. It was a political version of an eye roll. Rogan calls it Harvard swagger, where the IQ is assumed and the accountability is outsourced. Obama acted like every question was beneath him unless it came from a Vanity Fair writer or a room full of Ivy League interns. When it came to criticism, his skin was thinner than the economic recovery chart in 2010.
When they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this. And then they were, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the Armed Forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect.
Gutfeld's not letting go of the education disaster either. The guy did more to empower unions than to rescue failing schools. Greg laughs at the idea that a man so revered by academia could let inner-city schools deteriorate while funding studies on whether squirrels are affected by climate change. School choice? Nope. Parental involvement? Optional. But if you wanted a lecture on systemic obstacles, Obama had a 40-slide PowerPoint and an army of consultants. Joe closes the first round with this. Obama was the smoothest salesman in the world, but at the end of the day, he was selling air. Cool, minty, well-branded air. He made you feel like you were part of something noble, even as your insurance premium tripled and your local VA hospital forgot your name. That's the magic. That's the con. The man didn't govern. He narrated America's decline with a Spotify voice and a golf swing. And yet they both know this roast isn't finished. There's still more glitter in the illusion. Still more myths to smash. Still more symbolic trophies, collecting dust in the moral trophy case of man, who turned rhetoric into a substitute for results. They're not done. Not even close. And just when you thought the curtain had closed, Obama pops back up with Netflix deal and a memoir every 14 minutes.
You know, if you watch Fox News on a regular basis, it is a constant menu. They will find, like, folks who make me mad.
So let's analyze. He says Fox goes out of its way to locate and then demonize the poor. For what reason? So we can kill and eat them? His criticism is absurd because he never suggests a motive. FNC is always focused on policies that keep the poor poor, not...
Joe Rogan can't help but laugh. Here's a guy who spent 8 years dodging accountability, now selling life advice like he's the Dalai Lama with a drone license. It's not leadership, it's lifestyle branding. The man turned his presidency into a streaming franchise. Gutfeld jumps on that like it's the last joke at a comedy roast. Obama didn't retire, he rebranded. Now pitching documentaries about American struggle from the comfort of a multi-million-dollar compound guarded tighter than Fort Knox. It's as if reality has to pass a background check just to get past the security gate. Joe snorts at the irony. Obama taught people to worship symbolism over substance. And now he's cashing in on it like a tech bro who just discovered public speaking. The country didn't get better. It got better at pretending things were profound because they were said slowly with gravitas. And behind it all, the same polished nothingness wrapped in a designer suit.